LA Kings certainly like to keep us on our toes, don't they? We came into the game with the news that not only is Jonathan Quick out for at least 3 months, I calculated, that's 48 to 52 games if it's exactly 3 months, so, oh my god. And then his backup, Zadkov, was kind of escorted off the ice at practice before the Canucks game, and he has a groin injury and has been placed on injured reserve. So we have the backup of our backup, Budaj, in net, and the backup of our backup's backup, Campbell, was an emergency recall from Ontario. Thank God we moved our team from Manchester to here, because he just kind of, you know, drove up the 10, headed on into the thing. And then actually the cool story from Ontario is that the guy who played in net, his dad was his backup because he is the goalie coach, so that was kind of cool. But still, there's an interesting goaltending situation going on over here in LA, and it made for quite an interesting game. So Budaj, like we said, was in net. First period is looking pretty good for the Kings. Actually, it's looking really good for the Kings. They are controlling the pace of the game. They're controlling the puck a heck of a lot more than the Canucks are. They had really good control of the neutral zone. They weren't dumping and chasing as much, which is something that has been driving me crazy the last few games, because their success of dump and chase is not that great. So that's something they kind of cleaned up, and then sure enough, that leads to a goal. Yay! Our first goal of the game, always exciting. So this goal was McNabb, who by the end of the game, I'm going to come to want to strangle just a little bit, but for right now, he does good. This is a pretty sick shot from Dustin Brown, and I can't remember who the second assist was, but just snuck past him. Really nice wrister. So great job, McNabb. The Kings get on the board. It's maybe like 5 minutes into the game, so it's a good start. It's a really good, positive start, which the Kings then follow up with an Andreoff penalty, and I think by now we kind of know how I feel about Andreoff. Not a huge fan. It's cool. Nothing really comes from that. Because then the Kings get a power play, and sure enough, they score on that one. So the Kings are suddenly up 2-0, and it's looking good. This was like the weirdest goal, too. The goalie kind of didn't really have it, and then he kind of bounced out, and then Pearson just like jabbed at it. Whatever, I'll take it. It was great. And that was with only a couple minutes remaining in the first period. And then, sure enough, we get a penalty at the end of the second period. That was McNabb. Not the one I want to strangle him for, though. That comes later. So we go into the second period up 2-0. We're, I believe, out hitting them and out shooting them. We're doing good. It's the first period that we've been used to. We always start really well. So going into the second period, that tends to be where the Kings completely collapse their game. And, you know, when they first started, they didn't. 34 seconds into the second period, Brown from Kopitar scores a shorthanded goal. It's awesome. I still don't quite know how it got up to that point, but they were both kind of hacking at it, and it ended up behind the goal line. And so there's 3-0, and Dustin Brown's first goal of the season, the first season that he's not a captain, with Andrei Kopitar, captain right there, hacking away at 2. That's a shorthanded goal for Dustin. So that was really nice to see. I gotta say, I'm sensing a little bit of tension between the two of them, because they didn't really do the, yay, we scored, and especially shorthanded. You celebrate pretty good for that, and they didn't really have that going on. So, I don't know. I'm not in the locker room. I can't say, but just an interesting little observation. So then the second period continues, and things start to go down a little bit. We start taking few more penalties than I would care for. The first goal Budaj gave up is this one right here, and it was just, again, it was weird. He kind of mishandles the puck, and of all the things that our goaltenders are going to learn from Jonathan Quick, and I hope it's a lot, because I really, really like Quick as a goalie. His stick handling leaves quite a bit to be desired, so Budai mishandles the puck. It goes out into the corner, and instead of a King getting on top of that, it's a Canuck, and Budai does this weird, like, spin thing, and so instead of having his back to the net stopping the puck, what he's actually doing is standing, you know, a couple of feet from the net, staring into the back of it as the puck also goes into the back. So that was not great. Was that the first one he gave up? I can't remember where I'm at. Yeah. And then there's a second one. And we're like, okay. This is not the greatest way to end the second period. Slightly disconcerting. The play is kind of declining, and I'm not comfortable going into a third period with only a 1-goal lead, especially against a team who is 4-0 on the season going into it. Because, I mean, I was definitely thinking when the season started that the Kings would be on their heels and the Canucks would be 4-0, right? I mean, this is what we were all thinking. So we go into the third, and it's kind of looking okay. It's not too bad. And then Shore takes a penalty with about 5 minutes left, and that's not so great. And then McNabb decides that 1:47 remaining in the game is such a good time to take penalty. He knew it too, and it's delay of game. It's my least favorite, short of too many men on the ice, amateur hour penalty. You don't take a freaking delay of game. You don't shoot the puck over the glass in their zone when you have a minute 47 left and they're about to pull their goaltender. It's fine. I'm breathing. He immediately, he knows he's done it. His whole body just goes, ugh. So he skates into the box, and sure enough, they tie the game with 34.4 seconds remaining. And we're going overtime. Okay, so we're in overtime, 3-on-3. I love watching the Kings 3-on-3. It's quite a thing of beauty. It's not so great tonight, though. Kopitar, don't really know where he was shooting. He was on the ice a lot. Pearson was doing some good things. Doughty, just a thing of beauty, the way he blocks pucks and does just everything in front of the net. It was like he was trying to be the goaltender at some point. It was gorgeous. Doughty was great. And Muzzin, who honestly was part of the reason that the first goal happened, and he was the one in the box for the second goal, the power play one against us. So, you know, not the greatest night for him in the regular part of the game, but in overtime, dude was hustling. It was great. He and, like I said, Tanner Pearson, Jeff Carter can skate, y'all. I know this is not news, but I just like to comment on it because, again, it is a thing of beauty. With less than a couple of minutes left to go in overtime, really it should have been about 3 minutes to go in overtime. We drew a penalty, but they didn't call it. So they did call the next one, and so we end the overtime 4-on-3, which doesn't really help us because we couldn't do anything with it. It was not, to be truthful, our greatest overtime period. Usually when we're 3-on-3, we pretty much dominate the whole thing, and it doesn't take long for us to win it. This has been, since 3-on-3 started last season, the Kings have been phenomenal. And this was pretty lackluster. They didn't really have the drive. They didn't win the faceoffs. They didn't have the possession. With the odd exception of Drew or Jake doing just something gorgeous to get it back, it wasn't our, like I said, it wasn't our greatest. So we go into a shootout. First up is Kopitar, whom again I love dearly, but not so great in the shootout, and he does exactly what I expected him to do and exactly what the goalie expected him to do, and so that gets stopped. Then the Canucks shoot, and Budai with the save. Thank you, man. Second, Tanner Pearson. I did not realize how much we missed Tanner Pearson until we didn't have him for the first 2 games, and wow, that was a gorgeous shot. I mean, total zinger. Right past the goalie. Budai makes the next save, and so all we have to do is get one more. which Setaguchi was in, which is interesting. I'd noticed him a couple of times during the game, and I think he probably earned that shootout spot. Couldn't do anything with it, but luckily for the Kings, they get the last save. Peter Budaj makes it, and I felt like I lost years of my life watching that game. And the thing is, I shouldn't have. The Kings did a lot of things right. They had some really good puck possession. They controlled the neutral zone a lot more than they have. They stopped doing as many dump and chases. They just made some really dumb mistakes. And I'm not going to put this whole game on Budaj, because obviously we won and that was good, but there were a couple of saves I kind of wish he had made, and I felt like that in the last game too against Dallas. So it's going to be a really interesting season without our goalies. I miss Martin Jones so much, guys. But he's not coming back. He's starting for the Sharks, so good for him. The Kings managed to pull it off tonight, which is great. So hopefully we'll see a few more wins in our column. The last two, in fact, our only two wins have been in overtime, so it would be nice to see us pull it off a little more convincingly. Only like 46 to 50 more games that we have to wait for Jonathan Quick to come back. And I'm not even going to try and do the math on how many of them we need to win in order to be okay by the playoffs. We'll see.